blatant and egregious that, except for the most covered and most motivated and most rascal devotees, all the other devotees are going to say, no, no, what is this? No, this cannot possibly be what Prabhupada wants. Just like when Sulochan got assassinated, everyone said this cannot possibly be what Prabhupada wants. That's why the Mars dasha had to come to an end. It was too shocking. We get moved by shocks. Shocks wake us up, big shocks. And the shock that's going to come in this Saturn period, which is hard to get shocks in the Saturn period, because the Saturn period oppresses, depresses, compresses, and suppresses. So you don't get shocks very easily. You become inured. You become very existential. But in the Saturn period, we're going to have it reach a point where it's going to be so shocking that devotees are going to reach critical mass, and they're going to say, no, this is too corrupt. This can't be it. I have to be able to figure this whole thing and go back with this whole thing. Something is grievously wrong right from the gate, right from square one with this. And it is that point, when it hits the nadir, that the death knell of the Saturn dasha is going to be sounded. Not that it will immediately die, but it will then start to fade very quickly, go into the next dasha. And that is the essence of the question.
Yes.
The essence of the question is, what is the immediate future of the Krishna consciousness movement, and what is the midterm future after the immediate future? And the answer is, the immediate future, the future of the now, is this Saturn dasha. Corruption is really bad now. It's going to get worse. It has to get worse. Maya will force. But then it will hit its nadir. And when it hits its nadir, then the Saturn period is going to have a death knell sounded that its time is going to be up pretty soon. Because there's going to be a big revolution. A big revolution in the consciousness of the devotees, that something needs to be revolutionized back to where it originally was, because where it has gone cannot possibly be where Prabhupada wants it to be. This is not possibly what Lord Chaitanya wants. This is not the way. Then, my prediction is, and it is a prediction, there's going to be a Mahabhagavat. He's going to emerge. Because we're going to go into what dasha. What dasha followed on the Western adventure? What dasha followed? The Saturn period. The Dark Ages were followed by the Gothic, which were still very religious. It was a Christian, one of these three Christian religious stages, whereas you would say the Renaissance period was not a religious stage. But you would say the Gothic period was. But it was based on centralized authority, power, enlightenment. There's going to be a solar period coming up. And this solar period has all the possibilities of no longer being part of the Western adventure. In other words, just like this started with the Jupiter period, which was not, Prabhupada did not actually start a Western adventure. He preached into the West and said, you can have your customs, you can have your culture to some degree, but you must dovetail it. But it must not be Western based. You must not be having the big misconceptions. You have your ways. You don't have to change every single one of your ways. Some of them can be dovetailed. I will make some allowances. For example, I will allow females and males to live in the same temple. I will, as a sannyasi, conduct marriage ceremonies. I will give sannyas before you've even reached an artha-nivritti. What to speak of before you've reached Brahman realization, as a purificatory measure. There were allowances given because of the nature of the Western personality, the nature of the Western karma, the nature of the Western culture. The Jupiter period of Prabhupada's Krishna consciousness movement was a very good period. And the beginning of the Mars period of his movement was a very good period. Then it degraded down because you can always misuse free will. What is free will? Free will is like a coin. A coin with two sides. One side is daiva in the sense of providence. The other side is daiva in the sense of fate. Free will for a human being means that he can choose either to act according to fate or providence. But destiny as one, meaning the energy of destiny as one, always has a way that if you want to flip, it will flop. If you want to go to one side, it has a way that you can go to one side. It'll make an arrangement so that you're with Providence. You're going like this, and then you can go like this. It will make the arrangement. Similarly, you're going like this, you can go like this. If you want to go to the other side of the coin, you only get a brief little time here where you can stay on the edge. If you flip a coin 1,000 times, maybe one of those times it comes up on the edge because it's leaning up against the wall. Otherwise, it always comes on one side or the other. The edge doesn't come up very often. You can't stay on the edge very long. You're either going to be with the fate energy or you're going to be with the providence energy of Daiva, of destiny. Destiny is a coin, one coin of destiny with two sides that are diametrically, they're sides. So that means they are opposite sides. So in the same way, things are very good in Providence movement. Then even in the Mars period, they're very good. Then that personal ambition entered, and the great sinister movement entered, and these deviations entered, and then it started to flip over. Then by 1978, flipped totally over. Now we're on fate, but it's still the Mars. And even through the moon. What is the value of this Ritvik? This is a concoction. It's an anti-Vedic concoction. There's no value to it. So it's different from the fabricated so-called ISKCON. So it's different from the Neo-Gaudium Mutt. All right, but they're all deviants. None of them have the Siddhanta correct, although fabricated ISKCON has better Siddhanta than the other two. None of them has the process correct. None of them has the Sadachara correct. Personal ambition has no play in Krishna consciousness. They're the poisonous personal ambition. What I'm saying is that there's a possibility that as we enter into this solar period, when this dasha of Saturn reaches the point that it's intolerable, we might flip over to Providence if there's a Mahabhagavat. If there's not a Mahabhagavat, it can remain deviant, but it'll be different. It'll be a major transformation, deviant, different. It'll be very, very centralized, oppressive dictatorship authority of Krishna consciousness, because some group, or maybe even some person, like an Antichrist type, will have the power to be able to just control everybody ruthlessly through the methods that are used, Machiavellian methods of control. Could go either way, but I'm going to remain optimistic because that's just the way I am. I see it as coming back, and it can come back by having a Mahabharata. Now, I'm going to add this clarification, which will appear to be shocking, but it shouldn't shock anybody, because I use this analogy, and I've been criticized sometimes for using this analogy, but this analogy is a very good analogy. Think about it. All right, you're in debt. You've been maxing out your credit cards and not paying. You're in debt. In your wallet, you may have $100, and that's about it. You got very little in the bank, if anything. You're running on empty, and etc. Now, for you, a millionaire befriending you is a great, great thing. If you say, "No, millionaire, I'm not interested in a millionaire, only a billionaire." Oh, and it's so much harder to have a billionaire befriend you. If a millionaire befriends you, he can take care of your $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 problems very easily. He can tell you how to take care of them. He can make arrangements. He can give you a loan. Whatever he can do, he might even give you a grant because he likes you so much. So, a Brahma-realized devotee means he realizes Brahman. Brahmabhuta prasanatma nasochati nakakshati samah sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhakting lapate param. He's a very advanced devotee. He's not a Mahabhagavat yet. But he has a lot of power, and mystic powers certainly have psychic powers. And mystic powers are starting to develop also, because mad bhakti lepate param. He has that transcendental bhakti now. As Prabhupada once said, devotee means Brahmabhuta. He's a real devotee. It's a middle stage. The Sanskrit word for middle, by the way, is madhyam. And the Sanskrit word for eligibility is adhikar. So I'm giving you a little hint there what stage it is. Giving you a big hint. In fact, I'm telling you.